If Adaugo had known that the dirty, smelly madman she gave her only cup of water to was actually the king of the land, she would not have cried when her wicked stepmother broke a broom on her back for wasting water. She would have laughed, because her destiny was about to change forever. But she did not know. Nobody knew. And that is where our story begins. In the village of Umuoda, there lived a young girl named Adaugo. Adaugo was beautiful, with skin like smooth cocoa and eyes that shone like stars, but she was the saddest girl in the village. Her father had died 2 years ago, leaving her in the hands of his second wife, Mbechi. Mbechi was a woman with a heart as black as charcoal. She had her own daughter, Ugochi, who was lazy, rude, and arrogant. While Ugochi slept on a soft mattress and ate eggs for breakfast, Adaugo slept on a woven mat in the kitchen, near the ashes of the fire. She woke up before the cocks began to crow to sweep the compound, fetch water from the stream, and cook for the household. Yet, she never received a thank you. Only insults and slaps. One hot afternoon, the sun was burning the ground so hard that even the lizards ran under the rocks to hide. The heat was unbearable. Adaugo had just returned from the stream with a heavy clay pot of water on her head. Her neck pained her, and her throat was dry as sand. She had not drunk water since morning because Mbechi forbade her from drinking until all the clay pots in the house were full. As she set the pot down to rest for just 1 second, a foul smell filled the air. It smelled like a goat that had died 3 weeks ago. Into the compound walked a man. He was terrifying to look at. His hair was locked and filled with sand and dead leaves. His clothes were nothing but dirty rags that barely covered his body. Flies followed him in a swarm, buzzing loudly. He was drooling, and his skin was covered in sores. This was the madman of the forest. People said he ate children. People said if you touched him, you would become mad too. Ugochi, the stepsister, was sitting on the veranda eating a sweet mango. When she saw the madman, she screamed as if she had seen a ghost. "Mama! Mama! There is a beast in our house," she yelled, throwing her mango at the man. The mango hit the man on his chest, staining his rags, but he did not get angry. He only looked at the mango on the ground with hungry eyes. Mbechi, the wicked stepmother, rushed out from the kitchen. When she saw the dirty man standing in her clean compound, her eyes turned red with rage. She grabbed the broom she used for sweeping the goat shed. "You useless animal! Who invited you here?" she shouted. "Get out! Get out before I pour hot oil on your skin." She rushed at the madman, hitting him with the dirty broom. Dust flew everywhere. The madman cowered, covering his head with his hands, making small crying sounds like a baby. "Water!" the madman whispered. His voice was cracked and dry. "Please, water. I am dying of thirst. Water." Mbechi laughed a wicked laugh. "I would rather give my water to a pig than to a thing like you. Ugochi, go and get me the bucket of stones. Let us stone this devil out of our compound." Ugochi laughed and ran to fetch stones. The madman looked weak. He fell to his knees, his hands shaking as he reached out. Adaugo was watching from the corner, her heart beating fast. She saw the fear in the man's eyes. She did not see a monster, she saw a human being who was in pain. She looked at her stepmother who was looking for a heavy stick. She looked at the pot of clean, cool water she had just fetched. It was the last cup of water in the small calabash she had saved for herself to drink. Adaugo knew the punishment for disobedience. She knew Mbechi might starve her for 2 days. But her mother had taught her before she died, "Adaugo, never let a person suffer if you have the power to help." Adaugo ran to the pot. She dipped the calabash cup inside and scooped the cold water. "Hey! You foolish girl! What do you think you are doing?" Mbechi screamed, turning around. Adaugo did not stop. She ran to the madman and knelt down. The smell was terrible, enough to make a person vomit, but Adaugo did not hold her nose. She held the cup to the madman's dry, cracked lips. "Drink, Papa," she said softly. "Drink gently." The madman drank the water in one gulp. It was as if life returned to his body. He looked at Adaugo. For a second, the madness seemed to leave his eyes, replaced by a look of sharp intelligence. He touched Adaugo's hand with his dirty fingers. "The hand that gives shall never lack," he whispered. "The heart that sees the poor shall see the throne." Before Adaugo could ask him what he meant, a heavy blow landed on her back. Mbechi had hit her with the stick. "You cursed child. You gave him our water. You want to bring bad luck to this house." Mbechi beat Adaugo, and Ugochi joined in, throwing sand at the madman. The madman scrambled up and ran out of the compound, disappearing into the bush. Adaugo was left crying in the dust, her body aching, but her heart felt light. She had done the right thing. My people, pause this story for 1 second. I have a question for you. If you were Adaugo, knowing your wicked stepmother would beat you mercilessly, would you still have given your last water to that smelly madman? Be honest. Tell me in the comment section below. 2 weeks passed after that incident. The village of Umuoda was suddenly filled with the sound of the royal gong. The town crier walked through the dusty streets, beating his metal gong. Gom! Gom! Listen, people of Umuoda. The king, King Obina, has announced the New Yam Festival. But this year is special. The king is looking for a wife. Every maiden, rich or poor, tall or short, must attend the festival at the palace square. The king will choose his queen today. The village went wild with excitement. Mothers began scrubbing their daughters, rubbing their skin with camwood and coconut oil until they shined. Fathers bought expensive beads and wrappers. In Adaugo's house, the excitement was feverish. Mbechi bought the most expensive lace material for Ugochi. She bought coral beads that cost a fortune. "Ugochi, you will be the queen," Mbechi said, combing her daughter's hair. "You are the most beautiful girl in this village. When the king sees you, he will faint." Adaugo stood by the door, watching. She dared not ask if she could go. She knew the answer. But Mbechi turned to her with a wicked smile. "And you, Adaugo? You will go too." Adaugo's eyes widened in hope. "Really, Mama?" "Yes," Mbechi sneered. "You will go to carry Ugochi's umbrella and her fan. You will stand behind her like the slave you are. But listen to me carefully. You will wear your old rags. I want the king to see the difference between a diamond like Ugochi and a stone like you." On the day of the festival, the palace square was packed. Thousands of people gathered. The drummers beat the drums with power. Maidens danced in the center, shaking their waists, trying to catch the king's eye. King Obina sat on his high throne, dressed in robes of gold and velvet. He was a young, handsome king, strong and powerful. But his face was serious. He did not smile at the dancers. He did not smile at the girls who winked at him. His eyes were scanning the crowd, looking, searching for something. Ugochi danced to the front. She pushed other girls out of the way. She shook her beads and smiled a fake smile at the king. Mbechi stood on the side, clapping loudly. "That is my daughter. That is the queen," she shouted. Adaugo stood far behind the crowd, hiding behind a mango tree. She was ashamed of her torn dress. She was ashamed of her bare feet. She just wanted to see the king from afar. Suddenly, the king raised his hand. The music stopped abruptly. Silence fell over the crowd. The king stood up. He was tall and intimidating. He walked down the steps of the throne. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. He walked past the rich men. He walked past the beautiful dancers. He walked past Ugochi, who was already puckering her lips for a kiss. He walked straight toward the mango tree at the back. The crowd gasped. Why was the king going to the place where the beggars and slaves stood? Mbechi's heart began to beat fast. Maybe he wants to tell Adaugo to leave because she is too ugly, she whispered to Ogochi. The king stopped in front of the mango tree. He looked behind it. There, cowering in fear, was Adaugo. She tried to run, thinking she was in trouble, but the royal guards blocked her path. She fell to her knees, trembling. Please, my king, I did not mean to offend you with my rags. I will leave. Adaugo cried. The king smiled. It was a smile that lit up the square. He reached out his hand, the same way the madman had reached out his hand. Do not kneel, my queen, he said softly. The whole village shouted, what? Mbechi pushed through the crowd. My king. This is a mistake. This is my slave. She is nobody. She is cursed. Look at my daughter Ogochi, she is the one for you. The king turned to Mbechi. His eyes, which were kind a moment ago, turned to fire. Silence, woman, his voice thundered like lightning. I know you. And I know your daughter. The king turned to his guards. Bring it, he commanded. A guard stepped forward holding a bundle. He opened it. Inside were the dirty, smelly rags of the madman. The crowd was confused. The king held up the rags. 2 weeks ago, I dressed in these rags. I put charcoal on my face. I rubbed rotten fruit on my body to smell like death. I walked through this village looking for a wife. Not a wife with a beautiful face, but a wife with a beautiful heart. The king looked at Ogochi. You, he pointed. You threw a mango at me. You called me a beast. Ogochi started to shake. He looked at Mbechi. And you? You chased me with a dirty broom. You called me a devil. You wanted to stone me. Mbechi's knees knocked together. She peed on herself right there in public. Then the king turned to Adaugo. He took her hands. His hands were warm and strong. But you, he said, his voice full of love. You had nothing. You were hungry. You were thirsty. Yet, you gave me your last cup of water. You called me Papa. You treated a madman like a king. Therefore, you shall be the queen. The crowd erupted in cheers. Yeah. The women all related. The men clapped. It was a roar of approval. Adaugo looked at the king, tears streaming down her face. It was you, she whispered. It was me, the king replied. I was testing my people. And only you passed. The king ordered his guards. Take this wicked woman and her daughter to the royal farm. Give them brooms. Since they like using brooms to chase people, they will sweep the royal granaries for the next 5 years. They shall learn what it means to serve. Mbechi and Ogochi were dragged away, crying and begging, while the village booed them. Shame! Shame, the people shouted. The king lifted Adaugo up. He took off his royal cape and placed it around her shoulders to cover her rags. He led her to the throne and sat her down beside him. The drums started beating again, but this time, they beat for Queen Adaugo. From that day on, Adaugo never suffered again. She ruled with kindness and wisdom, and she never forgot that kindness to a stranger is kindness to God. And so, my people, the story ends. Remember, no condition is permanent. Be kind to everyone you meet, for you never know who is a king in disguise.